All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Francis Pimentel, and I'm here with Marek Zmyslowski from the Samana Group. He's founder and CEO of Samana Group in the Dominican Republic, currently working in raising capital also for his project in phase two. That's an absolutely beautiful destination that if you don't know of and you're not aware of, you should definitely look into. How are you doing today, Marek?
I'm doing very well, although it's a cold evening here. I'm actually in Poland right now, although I live in the Dominican Republic, because I'm Polish. How are you?
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure and honor to have you, and I'm excited to listen to your experiences with Samana Peninsula and everything that you've been going through. So, do me a favor, can you just please yourself share a little bit more about yourself, maybe your background, a little bit about the project and what your your process so far, and then we'll go into the actual questions.
Of course. So yeah, my name is Marek. I'm Polish. I'm 38, 37, still years old. My business experience started in the early 2000s in the so-called online space, first in Poland, and then I had some business adventures in sub-Saharan Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, and South Africa. So in the beginning, I was an online entrepreneur. We were relatively successful with a few businesses. One of them, we were able to do an IPO on New York Stock Exchange in 2018, and then I slowly transitioned into the construction and the real estate world. My first adventure was in the solar roofing business. That's how I also learned about ecology and sustainability and renewable energy by building a company that happens to become the number two biggest solar roof producer in Central Europe. And since 2020, I'm a full-time real estate developer. I'm married to a Dominican beautiful lady, and together with her and my business partner, who's also a real estate developer, but much more experienced because he's been doing this for 35 years. We are developing a project here in Samana Peninsula in the Dominican Republic, where we are trying to combine the best of both worlds. And by both worlds, I mean the amazing visionary aspect of sustainable projects, which allow you to build something in harmony with nature and local communities.
Mhm.
But you want to merge it with the financial sustainability of your typical commercial, heavily funded real estate projects. We want to be at the intersection of the both because we believe that there has to be both. And our first project is called Nomad City. It's a private town for people to live long and happy and healthy. We were pretty successful with the launch. We've sold first 71 units in under 12 months. We are now under the construction of phase one. First residents will move in first quarter next year, and yeah, we're already getting ready for the expansion and for next stages. Because if you want to build something sustainable, you have to be big enough in order to sustain yourself. But we're probably gonna get to that in a second.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, Samana is one of my favorite places in the Caribbean and in the Dominican Republic, in the world, really. It's to me the jewel of the Caribbean. It's an undiscovered treasure for many people. So, and one of the things that actually calls my attention about the project also is the low. Just to kind of mention this out there because I think it's important for people to know the aim of the low footprint on the land that you have for the project.
That is correct. So our strategy is really embedded inside the constitution of our real estate trust. So the way we've secured the strategy, because the biggest question was how to stay, how to stick to your vision once you become big as an organization. Because the problem
Hmm.
of every organization becoming bigger and bigger is greed. And sometimes founders leave or die, many things happen. And that's how you create those monstrous corporations, right? So we've decided to put everything into a real estate investment trust and put a constitution inside it. And when we think, by we, I mean the founders and the investors and the first residents, when we say sustainability, we really mean four foundations, four pillars. Pillar
Okay.
number one is low density, simply because for me, it's the easiest way to quantify. One of the most important quantification ways to sustainability is the density. So basically, how many people per square
Mhm.
square meter?
Mm-hmm.
Then the second one is region self-sufficiency. I'm thinking about, how far does the water, electricity, furniture, food has to travel to supply the residents. So
Beautiful.
that the more things are being sourced locally, the better. Number three is local community empowerment. And then again, this is a huge. This is a huge topic. We focus on one particular thing, which is financial empowerment. So, what are the most efficient ways for the local community to also get wealthy thanks to the projects around us? And again, inside that financial empowerment, we chose foreign language lessons and micro loans for entrepreneurs. Then third, I already said about local community, regional self-sufficiency. I spoke about low density. And number four, we call it the realistic sustainability. And I specifically mean technology, because
Okay.
usually when I'm a developer, when I build a building, when I build something cheaply, it usually comes at the cost of the nature.
Mm-hmm.
So if you flip this around, usually ecological technologies, new technologies are expensive because the producer of the technology hasn't figured out how to scale it up. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to find this balance between going after technology that is absolutely amazing, but it's going to kill your business financially. And then what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And the other extreme. So we like to call it the realistic sustainability when it comes to technology choice. And here, there's not much that you can quantify, or there's not too many strict rules you can embed, simply because technology changes so fast. And if we decide that this technology, this particular steel type, or this particular waste management technology is amazing for today, it might be totally obsolete tomorrow. That's why this is the least clear, the most flaky one, kind of
Mm-hmm.
part of our strategy. So I went from the easiest one to quantify, which is density, and I ended up with the most discussed one, right? Which is the hardest to quantify, which is the realistic sustainability. Those 4 pillars.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about that. And so here in this conversation, we're talking about, we're looking at aiming to catalyze projects towards real estate for good. I mean, we're calling it impact real estate, but the group that is working on this is a collective, and we're all aiming to have regenerative communities and regenerative projects around the world. But we do understand, that is a difficult ask, especially, as we're starting into this new area. I mean, it's hard enough to get sustainability. So we're calling it impact real estate. When you hear the term of impact real estate, what does that make you think of? How does that feel to you?
So it actually reminds me of my own personal story. Let me share this with you.
Okay.
I spent 5 years of my business adventure in sub-Saharan Africa. Like I told you, first Nigeria, then a little bit Kenya, and then South Africa. And we essentially built an e-commerce business there. At one point, I was hiring 120 young Nigerian university graduates in our office, doing basic website development, customer service, business development, administration, financing, accounting. And I remember an interview that I had to give at the TV station, and they asked me, "So you're an investor in this country. So what type of corporate social responsibility initiatives are you doing?" And my answer was, "We've hired 120 graduates that wouldn't probably get the chance to be working for another organization of that kind if it wasn't for us." So I do believe that there's a large part of impact in itself inside the real estate. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, real estate sector is one of the hardest, the most complicated, the one of the most capital intensive, which is why it's so hard to break into. And I know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying because I've
Mm-hmm.
been breaking into for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So by definition, there's so much impact, and this is one of the most important aspects of any nation, any economy to even stay alive. This is absolutely so crucial, and I'm not saying this from a perspective of someone that has been in this industry since forever, and I'm defending my status quo. I mean, I'm trying to do everything to disrupt this industry, but at the same time, I am appreciating the role this industry plays. Of course, there's so many things that could be done better, but by definition, real estate is impactful in itself. When you say impact real estate, what I think is that we are going from high level to local level, meaning you want the real estate projects to be impactful not only on the scale of the nation. I mean, we're going to increase the GDP production, we're going to send more taxes to, hire more people, and so on and so on. You probably want the project itself to be more impactful at the local level. So maybe hire more local people, maybe figure out the waste problem inside the project instead of just delegating this to the government infrastructure. So the way I see it is going from delegating certain problems to the outside infrastructure and keeping it inside the infrastructure of this particular project. And it might come at the cost of a lower ROI in the short term.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I mean, it's really taking on responsibility for because you can have a positive impact and you can have a negative impact, and you're coming in, building in a location, and we know this. You often compare and say that Samana, you want to build Samana not like Tulum was done in many ways, right? So it's like we're learning from the lessons that Tulum has, where the infrastructure wasn't there, yet we have all of this built, but you're taking this into consideration early on, and you are making sure that the infrastructure is there to actually be able to support these projects and giving the population also work as well, and taking on responsibilities that essentially might generally be the government. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, and I'm glad that it was a good segue, because you went into the past 5 years, and how you've been deep into the entry of actually raising capital. So what are the biggest challenges that you have experienced in raising capital for the project? Maybe take us through a little bit of the story of what it's been like for you in the past 5 years, and what's been most challenging for you, and also what have been the successes, what's made it be so successful, because you've already been successful with phase 1 sold out. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think I should. Maybe at some point I will write a book about it. One thing that really struck me is, and again, everything I'm saying, it's coming from a position of a guy that spent a decade of his business adventures in online businesses, and then he went into construction, solar power, and then into real estate. How much Game of Thrones like real estate is. Because it's real estate. Whatever you're involved in doesn't move. And it also applies to your neighbors and your competitors and your enemies and so on. So once you are stuck inside a region and you have made a bad decision, or you have had some bad luck with your neighbor, which is problematic, or another competitor going after the same plot of land, you are stuck with your enemies and with your neighbors, like whether you like it or not. And it's very hard to pivot and change the product and so on. So this was a huge eye-opening experience for me. I would also never guess, or it was hard for me to believe when my business partner was telling me about this, because like I told you, I have a few partners, but the most important one is Piotr. He's also Polish. He's a second generation CEO of a real estate company. They've been on the market for 35 years. They've built 10,000 residential units in their history. So he was always telling me, Marek, when the truck enters the site, 80% of the job is already done. So it's the construction site is the tip of the iceberg that you see above the sea level. The amount of preparation work and permitting and land assembly and
Pre-development stage.
It's mind blowing. Yeah, it's also an extremely tight. By tight, I mean it's hard to get into sector. I thought that the online business is one of the fastest growing business in the world, the IT sector, where I've always been into. But then I've realized how big the real estate world is. I mean, 80% of all the global wealth is into real estate, and every generational wealth, every family representing the biggest wealth in the world is into real estate. So you are going against the biggest of the biggest when you're entering a real estate sector. And it is one of the most complicated sectors. I've built two businesses, and we went from zero to $100 million in revenue, and I've done this twice with my investors and partners. And one of it was in e-commerce, and the other one was in solar roofs. And none of those challenges can be even compared to building a $10 million real estate project. I'm telling you, I mean, it's complicated, more complicated by an order of magnitude. And I'm saying this with all the humility I can find in myself. I remember my first pitches to first investors, real estate investors in New York. That was 2020, and I actually said that story. I'm a co-founder of two businesses. I'm coming from online space, and he basically told me none of this matters. Have you even built a house yourself? And that was a cold shower, and now I know why. So that's and following that thought is that there's a lot of arrogance in the industry. I mean, we are the only ones that can do this. The industry is very is trying to stay away from too much innovation, right? And I think this has two reasons, at least. One is you are dealing with people's lives. You're building constructions where people are going to live for tens, if not hundreds of years. So you don't have as much possibility to innovate as you could with websites. But at the same time, there's a lot of arrogance, and there's just so much money being made the same way for tens of years, hundreds of years. Why change something that is already, you don't change the winning team. And I'm just gonna end with this saying that I heard is that in the real estate industry, there are two places with a lot of concrete, and it's on the construction side and then inside the real estate developer head. It's just so hard to change and find some flexibility. I mean, it's been an amazing an experience and learning experience for me, and a great adventure.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that you mentioned those things. I think it's really important. Again, it keeps coming back up with people that are, it's many of us in this space. I come from a real estate background, and I've worked with a lot of developers, and now I'm aiming for the regenerative development. But the how difficult it is to change a developer's mind. I've experienced that myself, going to developers and trying to get them to align with certain sustainability criteria, certain green building certifications, or do things differently. And you mentioned something really important. At the end of the day, they're making a profit, and that's what they're looking for. So, here we're trying to figure out, how do we make a profit, but also actually have a positive impact. And so, in order for you to do that, I think with all of the technology that exists in the world today and all of the new innovations and everything that we know that's happening, it's important that developers start to become a little bit more flexible and more open to new ideas, because there are innovations out there that are going to make successful, sustainable projects and are going to give you a profit. But if you're still, kind of in the same box, you're just gonna continue to deliver the same thing. And there's a new generation of developers, such as yourself, that are emerging, that are open to those new possibilities. So thank you for sharing that. And as far as the challenges on the money part, when you got it'd be interesting on your first when you finally got the funding going for Samana Group, and for you to be able to move forward. How was that? Was that with the three people that you spoke to in New York, or just kind of a little bit on the funding component side of things?
Oh, it was a crazy adventure. Remember, I come from a venture capital and online business world, so I'm used to fundraising. And for me, having 100 meeting to get one contract signed, I've already went through that twice. So I was kind of
Huge
at
advantage.
least at least experienced on that side, right? So in my case, what helped is that I had some capital on my own. I mean,
Okay.
and probably more than a freshman, but much less than any other real estate developer. Then what gave me also advantage is that the initial land was contributed by my partners, who
That's
we have
huge.
who I have met,
Mhm.
who I was able to convince to do this with me, and basically I was able to start the project with the land they've contributed before I started buying more land. And and then when I assembled the team of people around me, because I'm the sales guy, really. I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, I'm the guy that is trying to enforce the vision and sell that vision to employees, to clients, and to investors. But then I need engineers around me, basically, and architects. Once I've assembled all that team, I went to raise money, and it was a mix of own capital, a few big investors, who supported me, and then a group of high net worth individuals who knew me from my past experiences, and
Mm,
they trusted me enough that they decided to write a smaller check from $10,000 to $50,000 as a way to bet on me and on the project. And
beautiful.
we had an initial seed round in 2021 that we closed for $5 million. And till today, we were able to generate sales for 17, but out of which we've collected 3. So overall, we had a $8 million budget,
Okay.
7.8. That was, enough to buy all the land that was necessary, prepare the projects, get the permitting, hire the team, start building, and so on and so on and so on. It's
Beautiful.
not. It hasn't been easy. The financing is one of the biggest issues especially in real estate, especially in the Caribbean, in an emerging market. So there's no chance
Huge.
to find leverage. I mean, developer financing in the local bank is 15%, which
Mm-hmm.
can kill your margin.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, you have to be really watching out for timely payments, because the foreclosure on projects will happen way faster than in a more advanced market. Yeah, like I said, this is one of the most sophisticated and most challenging sectors I've ever come across. So it hasn't been easy, but the reward matches the challenge.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love that you mentioned also the Caribbean and the challenges in the Caribbean. I think it's definitely one of the most challenging markets to work in. I mean, and especially in opening up and building a new destination, essentially. I mean, there's a destination that exists there, but really what you're looking for here is a new destination that is emerging within the Samana Peninsula. So it's a big challenge. Now, as far as projects that you consider to be successful, projects that are impact real estate, again, say good for the people, good for the planet type of projects. From your perspective and your point of view, do you know of any successfully funded projects that are maybe examples that you maybe take after or you take an aspect of from? I mean, I know that you're looking at building something different, but there are some projects that have inspired you that have been successfully funded.
Good question. I cannot point to like a very clear benchmark that I can just take from. I do have a few projects that I really look as benchmark. I'm not even saying looking up to,
Mm-hmm.
but because sometimes it's a cautionary tale. But in my journey, I have been looking at actually Irvine Ranch in Orange County in California, which is
Okay.
privately managed, essentially a city, which has probably nothing to do in sustainability the way we were looking at it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful example of a privately owned and managed large-scale community that has been successful throughout decades.
Mm-hmm.
And you can search for certain patterns in sustainability, and then you can build on top of that, right? Um, I really like what Punta Cana Foundation is
Mm-hmm.
doing
Mm-hmm.
within their area of influence, because
Mm-hmm.
Punta Cana has become this huge project that has surpassed the original vision of the Punta Cana Resort and Punta Cana Village founders. However, that Punta Cana Foundation, which is led by my good friend Jake Keel, what they're doing on their micro level inside this bigger
Mm-hmm.
monster that Punta Cana is. Of course, I'm saying this jokingly.
Mm-hmm.
How jokingly? I like their approach to managing waste, trying to do waste recycling and turn this into different products that they can resell. Take care of the waste from the airport, from all the hotels, and try to turn this into compost and many other things. So I really like that, because there's a lot of theory and philosophy that then was turned into something pragmatic and working in practice. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even the reef generation is another story. So I highly
Mm-hmm.
encourage read Jake's book, Waking the Sleeping Giant. So I did learn a lot from my engagement with him.
Beautiful.
Um, a cautionary tale would be what is happening in Tulum or in Cancun. I mean, how to manage such a crazy growth. Um, And I would stop here.
Mm.
I do not want to point out to a project like this. And to be honest, I am not really focusing on doing that much of a deep research
Mhm.
to copy someone. We're more of like trying to work from the ground up here locally and find the solutions that work here. And I'm going to
Beautiful.
give you an example because the solutions you have to search for really depend on the region you're in. Uh,
100%.
in so many areas in the world, access to water is problem number one, especially in the context of climate change. In Samana, actually, it's the total opposite. Like we're going to get more and more water. Our problem is, for example, your own electricity or food,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so on. So um, I think sustainability is a hyper local issue,
I
which
agree.
is why you have to be careful when you're just trying to copy paste some solutions or KPIs or certificates and so on.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love your approach to that. I'm sure that it's been quite a learning experience. And I thank you for bringing up the Punta Cana Foundation. I mean, that is an example of how the foundation, is sort of an arm of a project that is actually the arm of a project that's having a positive impact because you have the real estate, component of it, which in the case of Punta Cana is massive. But if you look at Playa Viva, for example, which is one of my go-to projects, Playa Viva has the hotel component to it, but then you have Recimar Foundation, which is really the arm that is having this incredible impact, regenerating an entire bioregion. And they have their permaculture program, they have the educational program, and so there's the foundation itself is really where the positive impact is coming from. So that's another angle that you can approach it. I mean, you have the foundation with Samana Group as well, where you're doing the
Yes, we do.
microfinancing and you're having supporting the local entrepreneurs. So wonderful to hear that. Now, I mean, is there anything else that you would like to add as far as, challenges or maybe something that you'd like to share as far as what advice do you give people, developers, young developers, or I like to say a new age of developers that are coming in now that are in this space of wanting to build projects that are good for the people, good for the planet, projects that are regenerative. I mean, we're looking at utopic projects in many aspects. Any advice that you want to leave us with from your experience so far in the industry, and if there's anything else that you'd like to share about Samana Group and the project, and the future of Samana, I'm happy to also listen to that as well.
Yeah. So what worked for me and that helped me, that definitely increased chances of success, and are still those chances are still being increased thanks to that particular thing is finding my complementary co-founder, right? So
Mm,
if I am the more visionary, more thinking out of the box co-founder in the real estate project, and I am that by definition because I'm the outsider, because 5 years in the real estate world, that's nothing, right?
mhm,
Then then do spend time on finding yourself a co-GP, a co-founder who
mhm,
is totally the opposite that you are. Like, is that 50-year-old, 60-year-old, old school real estate guy that maybe, is already at a stage of life, and he's trying to do something more innovative for fun even, right? And that
mm.
energy of you just doing everything the crazy way and the innovative way with him stopping you sometimes to save your life. It's a tricky relationship, but if it works, you're gonna be unstoppable as a project. I would focus on finding the right co-GP because you're gonna use his street credit to. It will help you open doors, get permits. You will just save yourself from so many costly mistakes, and the people will treat you more seriously if you have a co-GP on your team. Yeah,
Beautiful.
when you look at beautiful projects who start from scratch, they usually go two ways, right? You either have this crazy beautiful chaos of many romantic sustainability oriented ecological projects that
Mhm.
usually are just too small and they cannot stand the test of time because the technology is too costly and they just never are able to stay long term in the business. And on the other hand, you have this hugely successful corporate driven, private equity funded businesses that are just, money making machines that do not care about the local communities and the nature at all. And I believe that the right way is somewhere in the middle, right? So stay big enough that you're able to afford everything you need to afford, but stay small enough not to lose eyes from the very reason you did this in the first place.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for those last words. And final words on the future of where Samana Group is headed in the next what how long term is the vision for you? I know that you've secured a certain amount of land, but I from what I understand, and I know I need to get maybe a little bit updated on the most recent advances, there's a lot more that you're aiming for as a longer term to be able to hold within the peninsula and to be able to make sure that
Yeah,
the place, is really managed in a sustainable, that the peninsula is managed in a sustainable manner, if you will.
yeah, yeah. So our vision is to build a private town that will stand the test of time and will be a truly sustainable town. But by sustainable, I mean sustainable in the context of money, local communities, nature, residents, and so on and so on. Now, in Nomad City, which is our first project, which was the community for the first few hundred residents, this is just one project out of many that will be then combined under one umbrella. And that first stage, has been successful so far. We've sold everything we're building. We're already, securing next stages of development. But what really matters for us now in the strategy for the next months is, and I remember I said this once on social media and someone took it out of context and then accused me of being a neo-colonizer, but I'm going to risk, and I'm going to say it again. In order to control chaos, in order to control urbanistic chaos, in order to control the vision, you have to start by controlling the land. So the best way to secure the right growth of Samana is to control all the land that is possible to be controlled and then control it under a trust that has its vision secured. So what we are actually now is we are fundraising to basically buy all the remaining land in Samana and develop 10% of it and then just keep the 90% of it as farmland or national park or whatever we're going to decide together with other residents. But it seems like Samana, because it's so beautiful and it's getting so much traction, the crazy gold rush land grabbing is starting.
Ugh.
And it being taught how it might go wrong in other regions of the world, Tulum. We're now raising all the money possible in order to build the largest bank that will be then developed according to the constitution that we have told you about. And the way we do this is, and I believe, and I think, according to my knowledge now, we're the only region in the Caribbean that does it, is we're raising this without losing any control. So even if we're taking institutional money, any investor that puts any dollar into this, into our land bank, into our fideicomiso, into our trust, doesn't have a say when it comes to how it's going to be developed. So even if you're going to take a few $1 million from a private equity fund that invested in Cancun, they will not be able to force our hand and make us build a 12-story resort because the land is protected under the fideicomiso. This has been a project in the making for the last 12 months. We've been preparing all the documentation and again, securing purchase options for the land, and the time is now to execute. So we believe that this is the way to combine the best of both worlds, to become a financially successful project that is also sustainable for the nature and for the communities. And if anyone is interested, reach out to me and I'll send you some materials.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Marek. And yeah, I'll close it out with just saying, I mean, in regenerative development, from the approach that I've been trained, if you will, the community makes the decisions along. It's like really bringing in all of the stakeholders
Yes.
to design a project. But what I like about your approach is because I from the years that you and I have been talking and what I've learned is really the intention is there to actually protect that area. So it's sort of like we already know how it goes with the land grabbing in the Caribbean and all these places like Tulum and that, you know, people just come in and they're going to build to their to the demise of the place in the majority of the in
Yeah.
majority of the cases. So actually securing it to be able to protect it and knowing the low density aim of the project, I can understand that perspective because in the majority of the cases it doesn't go very well. So thank you again for that. That's a wonderful pleasure having you here, and I look forward to continuing to see Samana Group growing and being successful and setting itself apart in the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean and in the world, you know, as a truly sustainable project that has been able to withstand the test of time and to protect that beautiful region more than anything. So thank you so much.
Thanks for giving me the platform. Thank you.
No, no, no,
And
my
thanks
pleasure.
for everyone listening.
Well, thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Just, there we go.